to my Mompreneur studio. I am Anissa Crespo, and today I am talking to Tracy Desjardins, and she is a national board certified health and wellness coach, a mind-body eating coach, a fitness professional, and the international best-selling author of The Diet-Free Diva. So Tracy, welcome.
Oh, Anissa, thank you so much for having me on She Swaps. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you. So, you hold a lot of titles, and obviously, I'm sure, like the rest of us, wear a lot of hats. And I'm really curious to hear what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and who you help.
Yeah. I was thinking about this interview today and where I'd like to dive in today. Everybody kind of heard my work, and I'd like to explain where I'm at now. Something happened about 5 years ago. And in my book, The Diet Free Diva, for those of you that are interested, I tell my lifelong story of chronic restrictive dieting that I started at the age of 12 when I was a slightly overweight child back in the early 80s, late 70s. And I had to wear the pretty plus clothing, is what they called it back then, which is today's yoga pants. And that type of clothing was super comfortable. And I didn't care that it was plus size, it was comfortable. But all of a sudden, when I turned 12, I kind of caught on, with the media and everything that I needed to change my body to fit in. I bought into all those messages. And before I started my first diet at the age of 12, I was a happy kid, had lots of friends, life was good. I liked who I was. I had self-confidence. Everything was great. I had free spirit. I had a free-spirited nature where I was confident, and life was peaceful for me until I started dieting. And I lived a life of restrictive dieting for weight loss to try to match a certain number on a scale that I was told by my doctor that I needed to match. Like, I was not within that range. So there must be something wrong with me. There's a big concern here. I got to be within this range. And my body type was such that I wasn't within that range. But it was like, you got to be within this range or there's a problem. It's not acceptable. And I really bought into that belief. And I remember thinking, and I said, like, do I even really care about this? Like, why is this such a big deal? There are other things that are like really fun about being alive, but like, why is this such a big deal? I had that feeling in my spirit, but I bought into it because you hear it everywhere, right? I was not the Barbie doll type body physique. I just wasn't. And I kind of thought, like, well, I guess we're all supposed to chase this. So in the midst of my, let's say, restrictive dieting, which was basically, I really believed I had to deal with being hungry all the time and eat things I didn't like. And that's not fun. And I developed full-on binge eating disorder, which, by the way, was not a now it's diagnosed. It was not a diagnosed eating disorder or problem back then. It was just those of us that dealt with binge eating. We labeled ourselves as, we have no willpower, right? And what that does is it really robs us of shame, and there went my self-esteem and my confidence right out the window. It slowly trickled over time. Each time I started over on Monday and then rebelliously lost my mind and said enough, and then I was binging on sugar. It was always donuts and stuff like that. Never ended up with, like, anorexia or bulimia, but I really battled that, and I learned that I could compensate with exercise. And that was really a warpath. So 5 years ago, and that's 5 years ago. Well, first of all, I fought that battle for over 3.5 decades. But 5 years ago, I was really approaching my lowest of all lows with this binging. I couldn't get away with binging as heavily, but I'm still diet, restrict, start over. It's not working. And I consulted with a very high profile doctor. And if this gives you any idea of how desperate I was to figure out what was wrong with me, why I was using food, $500 an hour. I choked, I spent the money. And this doctor, this is when I realized there's a problem. And it led me into my writing. I was advised to, despite my binge eating disorder past that I could barely discuss because the doctor was, I was advised to intermittent fast because that's like the latest, greatest thing. And you can guess how that went for me. Okay. So that's
Wow.
when I decided, like, you know what? There has got to be something more to this. I'm missing something. This was back in 2019. I owned my own personal training studio, and I had been in fitness for 3 decades, hiding the shameful binge eating problem, okay? I was able to manage my weight, if you will, still off the charts, right? Uh, and I decided during pandemic when me and you and the rest of the world were fighting over our toilet paper and all of this, midst of the toilet paper crisis, I was also binging on ice cream again like I did when I was 16. I dove down that far. And that was like my wake-up call from God. After 2 weeks straight of having ice cream for dinner, I was at my lowest of all lows. I couldn't control it. I'm in tears. I had this feeling literally, and God kind of said to me, "Tracy, will you trust me now? You've been trying to do this your way forever. Can we talk?" And I'll never forget it. It was so surreal. So I took my white knuckling grip off of my control with food and listening, do this, do that, eat this, don't eat that. I'm open. I got nothing because everything I'm trying isn't working and I'm out of tools. So I did a lot of reading. I got some counseling. I hired my own coach and I discovered what I was missing. And I also discovered the whole world is confused about, well, intermittent fast, that's sexy. Don't eat meat. Don't eat dairy. You can't eat this, but you can eat that. Don't eat sugar. Don't eat carbs. Everybody's going nuts. We are all reasonably intelligent people, and we're going crazy because neighbor Betty goes to Weight Watchers. Look how much weight she lost. Oh, this person's intermittent fasting, but she's miserable. Then we see someone that had success. We see them 6 months later, and they don't want to be seen because the weight came back on. What the hell are we supposed to do? So after I spent a lot of time in silence and trying this and trying that and reading and praying, I discovered the 5 steps that helped me heal my dysfunctional relationship with food. I never binged again. And I had to write about it. And I closed my fitness business. And now I am a diet freedom coach for women. And it's difficult because women don't realize that they're dieting. They think they're eating right. Eat clean. Don't eat this. Don't eat that for the quest of weight loss. It's so programmed, and there needs to be a shift in how we think about food and our body to find peace and freedom with food. So, especially, I'm speaking to the entrepreneurs out there because we work real hard. Not that nobody else does, but that requires a lot of energy. And it's easy to use food to cope with stress and to regulate emotions. I spend a lot of time with my lovely female clients on that right there to create awareness and to figure out how to do what works for us and quiet the noise of what we hear that everybody else is doing and focus on, hey, what about me? What about you? It's time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I resonate so deeply with just about all of that. And, it's interesting. Like when we were younger, I was a dancer. So I was a competition dancer. And, several times a week in the dance studio, these are pretty intense workouts. People think, oh, it's just dancing. It's actually a really great way to exercise your body. And I did that from the age of 3 till the age of 12. And then at the age of 12, I quit one summer. And in that summer, before I went back to school, I gained 50 pounds. So what happened was I still was eating all the same things and coming from an Italian family who, you walk in the door, the first thing they ask you, have you eaten? If the answer is yes, you're still offered food. Are you sure you don't want to eat? Just eat something. Like they're constantly trying to feed you, right? It's like an emotional thing. And everybody in my family has battled with obesity. So my grandmother battled with it, and then my mother battled with it, and then I battled with it. And it was kind of like a cycle that I'm trying to break now with my daughter. So my grandmother, because of the struggles she went through, and you're talking back in like the 1930s, 1940s, she then had my mom and shamed her for everything. So my mom would be like, hiding tasty cakes in the backyard, or like, when she got her driver's license, like stopping at McDonald's after, school, stuff like that. Closet eating, so to speak. So then my mom, in turn, with me, went polar opposite and was like, let her eat whatever she wants, that was no good because they're like, oh, you want 3 slices of cheesecake? Sure, have it. That makes you happy, have it. Well, that's not good either. So now here I am with my daughter thinking, where's the happy medium? Like I don't want to, I want her, and you use the word relationship with food, a dysfunctional relationship with food. We use it for stuffing, we use it for emotions, we use it because we're stressed out, because we're upset, whatever the emotion is. And a lot of times I'll catch myself because, like, let's say, for example, my daughter's crying, she's 4 years old. I want to comfort her, and I know that she likes cookies. Do I want to give her cookies because she's crying? No. So, I try to be aware of things like that and just making sure that she has just a rounded balance of the food she eats. We're taught like, oh, let's do keto. Let's eliminate carbs. Let's eliminate this and that. And it's like, for me personally, what I have found that has worked, and I mean, 4 years ago, when I gave birth to my twins, I was 360 pounds. My husband and I collectively over the past 4 years lost over 300 pounds. And it's hard. It's a struggle every single day. I have to be really, really aware, but I also don't want to be consumed by it. I don't want it to be this constant, like just literally consuming your life. And something else you said, because when I was 12 years old, I was in 7th grade and I was not huge, but I was like just over into plus size. And they didn't make, the clothes that they made back then today. You know what I mean? Like back then it was slim pickings, no pun intended, but it was in the plus size section. And I remember that bell bottoms had become the new thing. I think they're actually back in today. And all I wanted was a pair of bell bottoms, and they didn't make them in my size. And my grandmother was a seamstress, so she actually sewed in a piece of material on a pair of jeans for me so that I could wear bell bottoms and feel good. But like these are the things that we had to go through. Like, and then what does that do to our self-esteem? You know what I mean? Like it's nice today that it is more inclusive. Um, but there's all this body shaming and these buzzwords that are going around, and it's like, what do we need to make us happy? Like, because that's what it's really about. You said you were a happy-go-lucky kid. Like, all of this stuff really didn't matter at the end of the day. So
Hey, can I dive in with that right there?
please do.
So when you said, Tracy, you were a kid, you were happy-go-lucky. If we all kind of go back, one of the things I do with my clients is we take a look at their food story. You just shared some of your food story with me. I'm also Italian, married a French guy. Okay. But I also have a similar food story, very similar. And we can kind of look back. Now, some women can fall into this category, some women maybe not, but it's worth considering. Was there a time when we were much younger where we didn't obsess about food? And maybe there wasn't really a problem. Okay, I always liked the hostess, I ate my lunch, then I had my ho-ho, and that was it. I wasn't obsessing over having more and more and more ho-hos until the game of the restrictive chronic dieting started. So if we think about I'll use myself as an example, what made me happy when I was in the 4th grade? A lot of things made me happy. Being the real me, putting myself out there, making friends, listening to music, roller skating, disco music made me smile continuously, coloring, being outside, playing with my dolls, all these things made me happy until the body obsession started and the food obsession to change my body began. All of a sudden, all of that energy in the things that holistically, by the way, I felt loved too, okay, holistically made me happy, started to funnel down and go away because of all the energy going into the obsession with food and body. And it still exists in different shiny packaging all the time. My husband told me this morning, he watches all the business channels. And I don't know if this is a thing or not. You may hear about it. You may have already heard about it. Apparently, Krispy Kreme has partnered with McDonald's.
Oh, wonderful.
The food industry, yeah, so God only knows what's coming, but the food industry is never going to, at least maybe not in our lifetime. I hope it's the case, but they ain't going to have our backs. So we have to have real conversations about food and pleasure, satisfaction, finding balance with that and understanding it's out there. We can't run from it. We can't hide from it. Even if we pitched a tent in the desert and moved there, there's going to be a gas station within a few miles that sells junk food. So we really can't escape from it. So we have to learn how to think about it. We have to learn to examine what's going on up here. This is the ticket to freedom and peace with food and body, right between our ears, our mind, and our heart. And this is a lot of the work that I do that's highly unsexy with my clients. And it does require a willingness to get in there with curiosity and openness. Take a look at your food past, take a look at that food story, and then talk about, you know what? I'm going to upgrade my computer system with how I think now. And we spend a lot of time on mindset shifting, a lot of, hey, what about you? How do you feel about this, this, and this? What do you mean, how do I feel? This whole thing with identifying feelings and emotions is all part of learning to meet our real needs.
Yes, it is
And
so true.
it's the segue back to everybody hold your horses, a balanced relationship with food. Oh my goodness. Balanced diet in a good way. I use the word diet in a good way. Let's go back to basics.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I mean, I don't think that we should be eliminating things. I think that everything in moderation is reasonable. Um, and I think we have to be careful with the words we use when we're talking to each other and to ourselves because, we find ourselves using these words like, oh, I'm going to treat myself today, or a guilty pleasure. Like, those are not healthy words.
We have to consider that the shame has got to go. When it comes to body and food and that relationship and how we think about ourselves in our bodies and with our food choices, we can't move forward until we recognize where is the shame, where is it rooted, and how can we work on softening that. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, we need to get rid of it, because let me tell you, if anybody has body and food shame that's as deeply rooted as mine, and a lot of people do, they don't talk about it. There is a way through this. And well, how do you work through it, Tracy? We have conversations like what we're doing right now. But there's a lot of shame involved in um, diet culture says things to us like, eat this, don't eat that. You have to weigh a certain number. Your BMI needs to be here. Just saying, I'm healthy as a horse. I am overweight for my height. I'm a little short little thing. And my BMI, I'm strong. I've been teaching fitness for a long time with other strong women just like me that are really, really down to earth. We have a great time. We blast the music. My BMI and a lot of these other women also on the cusp or off. But you know what? We're healthy as horses doing our thing. So it's conversations like this where we have to believe that there's something better. We have to believe that the perspective needs to broaden a little bit. And at the same time, we have to recognize that the Krispy Kremes and the McDonald's, they're merging, that kind of stuff is out there. And they're always going to try to lure us in to appease our tongue and appease a part of us that can use that food to feel better for a few minutes. Because let's face it, highly palatable, scientifically engineered foods like that, they're going to taste great and they're going to make us feel good very temporarily. Then we're going to want more of it. So there's so much here, Anissa. There's so much, but it starts with where we're at now and taking a look at, hey, you know what? Where do I come from? Where did a problem start? What is my past trying to teach me? What data is back there? And how can I use that now? In my book, I talk about putting on special glasses so we can see through the insidious food society that's trying to tempt us and romanticize us constantly with highly palatable foods. Because I will say that we want to feel good, right? And no doubt in your quest with weight loss, you and your husband, you started to catch on that when you ate certain things, there was a good feeling that was attached to that. You felt good, your energy improved, then you were on to something. Um, it's not just about what it says on the scale. It's about, when I eat an orange, I love an orange. When I eat an orange and a tablespoon of natural peanut butter and I drink some water, that does something good for me. I can show up like this and sit tall in my chair and not have my back hurt and have good energy coming from my heart, my mind, my spirit. Good energy because I ate that. Now, if I had a donut this morning for breakfast and sat here at 10:30 in the morning to talk to you, I would be foggy. I'd be slumped. My stomach would hurt. So I try to speak about food choices and help my clients decide what they're going to eat. I don't tell them what to eat. It's no business of mine to tell you what to eat, Anissa. And I would caution everybody, what business is it of anybody else's to tell you exactly what maybe you might not like that or whatever. That's where in the diet culture, it invades our sphere of personal, peaceful boundaries. We want that autonomy to be able to choose. We just need some help navigating all of the uber palate pleasing stuff that's out there. I really believe that people want to eat healthy and feel good. It's just there's so much confusion coming from the profit-driven diet and weight loss industry and the food industry. So we need to band together, and I like to use terms like link arms for the greater good of everyone else, because it's time for us to create a movement of intuitive wisdom and take on our self-trust back with our decisions with food that we were born with, frankly.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, there's so much to talk about.
Well, I love your passion. I can feel your energy. And, you make such smart points. I mean, McDonald's isn't going anywhere. Okay. If anything, they're going to be continuing to grow exponentially. And now they're merging with Krispy Kreme. So we'll see where that goes. And it's interesting because you say you have to be mindful of the fact. I mean, you can't drive 10 minutes without seeing three McDonald's and, all these different chain restaurants and it's out there and we have to pay attention to it. One thing, I abused my body with food and alcohol for many years. Alcohol, I was able to eliminate it. So I can just completely eliminate alcohol and live my life healthy. Can't do that with food. You have to eat. We have to eat and we have to eat to nourish our bodies. And there are so many great foods, enjoyable foods, and combinations, things that we can prepare that are really beautiful in color and make us feel really, really great, give us energy. Somebody asked me yesterday, she was actually an energy strategist, and she said, what do you do when you're low on energy? And I said, I eat a banana with peanut butter. I do other things too mentally, but that's what I do. When I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm dragging a little bit, So those are the things that I do. But like you said, like even an orange or it gives you such a pleasure that these processed foods make you think that you're getting pleasure. But let's be honest, if you eat a bag of McDonald's, when you're done, you just want to take a nap. Like you just want to lay down, you're sluggish, you don't feel great, you're like, and to be mindful that is really important because it can be a vicious cycle. And I just love what you're doing. Where can I find your book? Because I got to go get that one.
Oh, you're just the sweetest. My website, on the first page there is a link to buy my book, and it's theholisticdivas.com altogether, theholisticdivas.com.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that we have the links there so we could just click away because it sounds like a great one. I love that there's a workbook that goes with it, so that we can actually do the work. I mean, that's amazing. And you're looking lovely in pink, by the way. We're matching. I like the pink vibe. I love the whole diva thing. I'm all about the diva. So I really appreciate you coming and sharing about this. I'd love to have a deeper conversation when the audience isn't watching. And if you could leave the audience with just one more thing, what would it be?
Oh gosh, that's tough. One more thing. You know what's coming to mind? I'm just going to go with it. Trust your intuition. Just give it a go and see what happens. Trust your intuition because I firmly believe that our solutions for unwanted eating concerns and challenges with food and body reside in our hearts. And it's time to go back and reclaim them. And I know that that's difficult, especially when there's so much confusion out there. But our intuition, I call our inner wisdom, is there and readily available. And how do I know this? Because when I finally said, okay, I was able to connect with mine and find my healing pathway and do this work now. So that is my last long-winded tidbit for the audience here. And I really, really appreciate the opportunity to share on the she swaps. And you're helping me, I guess, bring in some volume for my mission, just like what you're doing with yours. And I'm so grateful, Anissa. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I mean, such a brilliant conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you again.
Thank you.